someone like Lane Johnson who has a MCL sprain and a high ankle strain and, all these different injuries. But he's going to go against Lawrence, and he said that, he doesn't like the whole America's team thing. He doesn't know how it got started. I mean, you have a Dallas Cowboys franchise that hasn't won but 2 playoff games in the last 25 years. So, to call themselves America's team when they really look more like the Cleveland Browns in some respects has a lot of the Eagles players kind of rankled in the locker room this week. But what it did, maybe it gave the Cowboys some bulletin board material, and that'll motivate them even more to play this game.
Well, let's go across enemy lines. Let's talk about them Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, Jerry Jones, very outspoken owner for the Cowboys, came out this week and said, "Hey, I'm keeping Dak Prescott. He's going to get an extension. He's all in on Dak Prescott." What does Dak Prescott got to do? Obviously, we want to, between you and I, we want to see the Eagles win this game. But at the same time, I think that the Cowboy fans want to see something different. Dak Prescott is the appointed general to the team from Jerry Jones, and he basically said this year he's going to get an extension. He's our quarterback, and he's here to stay. So Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, what do they got to do to beat the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, I think Eagles fans would love for Jerry Jones to give Dak Prescott a contract extension because they don't think Dak Prescott's that good. And, frankly, he has to play better. He had a terrific rookie season, obviously, 23 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. But he also had Zeke Elliott run for an NFL high yards that season. And, Zeke hasn't been able to get on track. Their offensive line is really kind of the culprit in that. They were terrific a couple of years ago when Dak won the MVP or the Rookie of the Year, and Zeke had all those yards. But they haven't been the same. They fired their offensive line coach 2 weeks ago, hoping that would give them a boost. I'm not sure it has. But that line, it all starts up front, and their line has not been good on the offensive side of the ball. And they need to get that kind of squared away in order to have any kind of success. And with the Cowboys, the success starts with Zeke Elliott. If he's not running the ball, then that puts a lot of pressure on Prescott. And I just don't think he's the kind of quarterback that can win a game all on his own. You see him make some very, very bad throws in game that aren't even close to their intended targets. So I think he's a good quarterback, but I just don't think he's that next level quarterback without help that can take this team to the next level. But Tom, it all starts up front with the O-line. They got to get that fixed. I like what they do on defense. They're, one of the top 5 defenses in the league. They're not giving up more than 18 points per game, which is really good. But it's two sides. You're playing well on defense, but you have to get that offense revved up. The Cowboys aren't really good at scoring points, and now they're coming into the link, a very tough environment to win in against an Eagles defense that will be fired up to play them. So, I think the Eagles will win this game pretty comfortably. But Dallas, they need to get that O-line fixed. I don't know where you go for an O-line fix at this point in the season either.
Well, let's kind of walk around the league here. Obviously, we'll hop on over here to the AFC South. My Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Indianapolis had a bye. They've got some people healthy. They're starting to fire on all cylinders. They're starting to get their act together. So excited to see the new energy with the Indianapolis Colts, certainly taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's very schedule friendly for them over the next few weeks to pick up some serious wins. And, it's not out of the question to look at them at maybe if they could check these boxes off and just do business and go to work and get these needed wins they should win. It's not unexpected to think they might get some sort of a wild card spot. Yes, it's a long shot. Yes, that's something that we want to see. But at the same time, I think that the Indianapolis Colts are in a very unique position to make an emergence or a comeback, if you will, a very much needed comeback this weekend against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, the Jags are really struggling. They're coming in off of the bye and being in London and having that extra rest, and I think they're going to have Leonard Fournette back, which will help the Jags. But the Colts, they're right there. I mean, if you can find a way for the Texans to stumble a little bit, or the Titans, and then some other teams in the other divisions, maybe the Colts can sneak in there. But that's really looking big picture. You really have to look week to week with them and see where they are. And after 4 weeks, you pick your head up and see where you're at. And, if they win, That's all they can do. That's all they can do at this point is just win games. And they lost a couple games earlier in the year by just a handful of points, and you hope maybe you learn from that. So the next time you get into a real close game, you can kind of pull it out, kind of like they did with the Raiders. I mean, that was a tie game late, and then they made some plays and were able to pull away from the Raiders out in Oakland. So I like what the Colts are doing. I love the way Andrew Luck is playing. I think Frank Reich has done wonders with that offense and the way he has handled Luck. I think he has, 3 touchdown passes and maybe 4 or 5 straight games, which that's remarkable when you think about that. And outside of T.Y. Hilton, if you're not living in the Indianapolis area, you might not be able to name any other receivers on that team outside of T.Y. Hilton. So I love the way Frank Reich is handling this offense. It's a mature approach to the offense. We saw what he did in Philadelphia. I really think he was integral in this Eagles offense, averaging 28 points on their way to the Super Bowl last year. This year they're only averaging about 20 down difference. So you could point to Frank Reich maybe as being a reason for some of that. But I just think the Colts' future is really good for them. And I just think that if you can find ways to win these close games over the next month, then you see where you're at, and maybe you do squeeze out a wild card. Either way, I think that there's a lot of optimism and enthusiasm in that locker room. If they don't make it, they're going to be so pumped up for next year, and they're going to have an off season where they're all going to want to work out together. They're all going to want to be together because they know that their future is bright, and that'll just motivate them going into 2019. But we're not done in 2018. Maybe they can squeeze out a wild card spot, which would be a great experience to get into the playoffs for them.
Well, absolutely. You got to look back in the season. I think everybody likes Frank Reich, but and why do I have such a brain fart? But we could have had a tie. A tie's a loss in a lot of ways, but maybe it would have came to help us at the end. And I don't think that Frank Reich is too worked up. I mean, I know people are still talking about, hey, you should have went for the tie. That would have made things different on the end. And I don't know why I have a brain fart on what team that was, but either which way, the talk was we should have settled for the tie.
Yeah, I don't mind the aggression, and I can't think who that was against either. But look, the aggressive personality of coaches today we saw.
It was the Texans. I'm sorry. That's right. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe that helps them. I guess I don't like ties, but I don't have a problem with the aggressiveness of a head coach. I know we saw the Titans try to go for the win in London against the Chargers a couple weeks ago, and on a 2-point conversion, and I had no problem with that. Maybe you could question the play call. Maybe they should have done something differently. They had 2 cracks at it after a penalty. But I have no problem with aggression, and mostly because I saw what it did for the Eagles last year on their way to the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson was aggressive on 4th down. We saw that in the Super Bowl when they ran that Philly play for a touchdown in the final minute of the first half on 4th and goal. So having seen what that does and how that helps the team when you show confidence in them over the long haul, I think that's a good thing. So I have no problem with what Frank Reich did in that situation against, you said, the Texans. So I have no problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with him not going for the tie and going for a win at all.
Well, let's kind of go through these games. We'll try to get through as many as we can. The Lions are at the Bears. A lot of people like the Bears here. They're 5-3. The Detroit Lions are 3-5. Certainly, I know that Patricia is still trying to figure things out with the Lions. They got a first-year coach. You got Mitchell Trubisky at the helm with the Chicago Bears. A lot of people like the Bears at home this weekend.
Yeah, I was disappointed in the Lions last week. I thought they would beat the Vikings last weekend, and they weren't really even close to beating them. So, maybe that was a Golden Tate effect, and I saw they signed a receiver whose name escapes me to replace Golden Tate now. I don't know. I just don't know where the Lions go from here, and I do think the Bears are still playing for that NFC North title, maybe a wild card spot, but they're still in the thick of it. I think the Lions, maybe had the wind taken out of their sails when you trade a guy like Golden Tate, popular guy in the locker room, Matt Stafford's security blanket. We saw what it did to the Raiders when they traded Khalil Mack On the surface, everything's well and good. Players will say the right things. Coaches will say the right things. But, inside that locker room, it's a different story. And maybe the Lions had a hard time, getting up for that game against the Vikings. But I just don't know where they go from here at 3-5 with Matt Patricia still kind of, feeling his way through this organization. I think the Bears will win this game pretty easily.
So Arizona Cardinals come into Kansas City Chiefs. This is nothing but another day at the office for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Arizona Cardinals are terrible. Kansas City Chiefs are at home. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. This is nothing more than another day at the office for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, you're right. It should be. You never know how teams approach games. If they overlook the Cardinals, maybe the Cardinals can stay around for a half and build some confidence and make this close. I doubt it. I think, the Chiefs look like they're on a mission, and I don't think that playing at home, their home crowd will let them, sort of overlook them. If they do, I think they'll find a way to pull them out of it, the crowd I'm talking about. So I think the Chiefs win this game. I don't know what the point spread is, but, I would lay whatever points it is and take the Chiefs in this game.
Well, I think it's way out there. We'll get to Mo. I think it's like 7 or something, but it's way up there. Vegas definitely tipped the scales on this game. Hey, Colts fans will never freely admit to you that they are rooting for the Patriots. Well, this is one weekend where they might say, secretly, I'll whisper in your ear, I'm rooting for the Patriots because they're playing Tennessee in a tight division race between Tennessee, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville. So a loss to the Titans and a win for the Indianapolis Colts puts the Indianapolis Colts in a very good position in the AFC South. So I would say, whether they admit it or not, all Colts fans are rooting for the New England Patriots against the Tennessee Titans this weekend.
Yeah, and it's a good route. I think I think the Patriots coming off that big game, that really hyped up game against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers last week. Who knows what kind of shape they'll be in mentally for this game. And I believe it's on the road, right, in Tennessee. And I know the Titans are in on a short week after playing Monday night, but they're playing with a lot of confidence. And Mariota is getting rid of the ball quick. I know he got sacked, I think, 11 times against the Vikings 2 weeks ago. But he learned from that. The offense learned from that. He got rid of the ball quicker against Dallas, and the Dallas defense, they can put pressure on the quarterback. And Mariota did a good job of avoiding that pressure by getting rid of the ball quick and making smart decisions. And I think the Patriots can be had here. I thought the Packers would beat the Patriots in New England. I was impressed with that victory, but we'll see where the Patriots are mentally coming into this game after being hyped up all week and getting ready for the Packers. And now you kind of catch your breath, and maybe the Titans catch them at the right time. It's going to be a big ask for the Titans to win, but I don't think it's out of the question.
Well, we go here to New Orleans Saints. They're at Cincinnati. As we mentioned earlier, I mean, the Saints are just doing everything right. They're 7-1. They got a great quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterbacks of all time. Certainly breaking records of Peyton Manning recently. So you got to give every credit to the New Orleans Saints organization. They go into the Cincinnati Bengals 5-3. Nothing to get excited about or ride home about the Bengals this year. Again, I think this is just a box that's checked off for the Saints.
Yeah, again, I just talked about the Patriots and that, possibly having a little letdown after the Packers game. You might be able to say the same thing about the Saints. They had a big game last week against the Rams, huge hype game. They just gave the Rams their first loss of the season. So maybe there's a little bit of a letdown going into Cincinnati. The Bengals are good enough to beat the Saints. They just need some things to go right for them, and maybe they will. Maybe the Saints will come in, a little bit let down after that game against the Rams last week. Big win. They play the Eagles at home the following week. Obviously a big game in the NFC. So this could be a good spot for the Bengals to pull an upset. In fact, if I had to pick an upset special this week, I'd probably go with the Bengals to beat the Saints.
We're talking with Ed Kratz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles and our official NFL contributor, talking about some NFL games. Well, we still got you here. I tell you what, two things in common week 5 between these two teams. The Atlanta Falcons have not lost since week 5, and they've got a very hot Matt Ryan. The Cleveland Browns are operating with an interim coach. They have not won since week 5. But the Atlanta Falcons go in to Cleveland. You would think this is a good game for Atlanta to win, but talking about statement-making games, this would be a good